Hello class, just want to give y'all some tips if you're working on that final project. Remember the script template is in the final project document here. So the best way to transfer this is you should open this up in your VM. If you have guest editions enabled, you should be able to copy paste, but you can always just access the file through your VM and then just copy, and then you can just paste it. So just to show you what that would look like. So it's I did a touch to create the base file. Remember to have your name on the script file name, and then you can just nano, and then from here you can just paste. And then you can go ahead and work on that. So I know you'll encounter some errors, right, at some point. This is normal, right? When you're writing a script, I run into errors at least a couple times, right, before I get the final script how I want it to be. So it might be a variable name, right? So be careful with your variable names. Make sure that you do follow the same names. I did make one small correction this week to the script. This one had a different variable name, so I made sure to correct it in the script template. But if you follow the step-by-step directions, then the variable names really don't matter. You could change these to any name you want. So let's say you are working on a file, right, and you get an error. So let me save this first. Control O, Control X. So I'm gonna run one of your classmates' scripts. C3, and here you go, right? It says line 21 and encountered some kind of obscure error, right? The error message isn't always like very informative, because Bash is just kind of telling you what it encountered, right? But it's not being really specific. It's not going to tell you, hey, you had a wrong variable name or your syntax was off. It's just whatever it interpreted the error to be, right? But the most important thing here is the line. So if you are editing your script here, you could use an app like VS Code. You can actually access this through the App Center, or you could just download it through your browser. So you could always install a program like this, which does a lot of like text color coding, right? It does a really good job of helping you write the script in terms of like just being a instead of being a plain text editor. But more importantly, if you did want to use the Bash shell, you could always enable the numbering with Alt Shift. Oh, I almost forgot. What was it? Let's see. Enable numbering Bash shell. Right. If you want to find line 21, oh, there you go. Alt Shift 3. So Alt Shift 3. There you go. You go to line 21, and then you'd be able to debug the error, right? Obviously, this is the template script, right? So there's not much of an error here. But yeah, if on your own script you did encounter an error, you could just hit Alt Shift 3, and then that'll pull up the numbering so you can identify which line of code, right, is the culprit. So common mistakes, right, can be variable names. It could be syntax. Make sure those while loops, right, you follow them exactly as you see them in the examples. Um, and then, of course, right, if you're using a package, right, you're using some kind of new commands, make sure you follow the syntax there. And as always, right, if you do encounter an error, you can always use the internet, use your resources, whether that's Google, right, whether you're trying to do something, right, like look up a package, package that converts file to Excel, CSV file to Excel, right? You can look up something like that. You could also use something like ChatGPT. extremely useful tool for any programmers, right? And especially when you're writing scripts in Linux. This is gonna, work off of many websites, compile it together. So it's kind of like doing a Google search, right? So package that, I don't know, for example, that creates an animation in Linux in the shell. See, there you go. So let's say you are looking for a package, right? Definitely use your internet resources wisely. ChatGPT is always a good resource. You could also just Google. Um, Here you'd probably want to put like Linux package, right? There you go. So yeah, Alt Shift 3 if you want to see the numbering. Be careful with your variable names. They are case sensitive. Be careful with your syntax. Make sure you do follow the examples. And as far as the script goes, you could make this all one script, part 1 and part 2. It is possible to do that. But you could also turn it in as 2 separate scripts. So I'm going to update that. Your script name file with your own first name and last name. I'm going to change that really quick. Yeah, I'll update the project instructions. To say if you do want to submit 2 different files, that's totally fine with me. But just know, you could have this as a part 2 of the script. So it could exist in the same file. Obviously, all this code would go after the first code. But anyways, that's it for this tip video. So yeah, you can use VS Code to edit your file. Though the Nano shell, right, should be more than enough. But yeah, if you need extra like color coding, VS Code could be a useful tool there. VS Code also does have its own terminal. So yeah, you can edit and run kind of from the same editor. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like before I end this mini demonstration. Let's go to downloads. Let's go open. There you go. You see all the color coding. And notice because it's bash, if you do hit tab here, it'll actually do the spaces for you. So you are allowed to do tab if you're on VS Code. And then VS Code has its own terminal. Yeah, so you actually have access to a terminal inside this application, which can be really handy, right? If you're trying to debug something, you don't have to like run separate commands, right? Over and over, like to edit and then to run. You can edit, save, and then run again. So kind of a cool way to work on your script. Of course, this is a Linux class, right? So I'm always going to emphasize using Nano instead. There are other editors in the shell. There's Vim as well. If you're an advanced user and familiar with Vim. But yeah, I'm going to recommend Nano. But yeah, VS Code, definitely a good option. You can download it through the App Center, or you can just look it up online, VS Code, and download it from there. All right, that's it for this demo. I'll update the script instructions so that if you do want to submit 2 separate files, that's totally fine with me. All right. Good luck with the final project. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Remember, you can also schedule office hours if you want some one-on-one time.